This is a sheltered workshop. A little known, but deeply controversial space. Part factory and part disability service agency, sheltered workshops employ mostly people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, like autism or Down syndrome. Many workers also have physical disabilities. The workers do simple manual work and are paid based on productivity. Nationwide, their average wage is around $4 an hour. According to the Department of Labor, more than 30,000 sheltered workshop workers earn less than the federal minimum wage of $7.25.
Fair wages now! Fair wages now! Fair wages now!
In the disability rights sphere, there is overwhelming condemnation of sheltered workshops.
Subminimum wage payment denies fair compensation and perpetuates ableism with society.
Critics say the workers are trapped in an environment that's separate and unequal.
When you go in those sheltered workshops, you lose any chance of dreams or goals.
Today, Governor J.B. Pritzker signed into law the Dignity in Pay Act.
Starting in the early 2000s, about a third of states have ended sub-minimum wage work for disabled people. And in December 2024, a nationwide ban was proposed by the Department of Labor under President Biden.
Mr. John Sweeney.
John Sweeney, good job, John.
But when I looked deeper, I encountered a paradox.
I'm good.
There seems to be widespread, if not overwhelming support for sheltered workshops by the workers themselves.
I like it here. It's my favorite place to work.
And their caregivers.
We'd be lost without this place.
In July 2025, the Department of Labor under President Trump withdrew the proposed ban, saying that the workshops are a necessary service for some disabled people. We're talking about an understudied and very vulnerable group. So I visited 2 sheltered workshops and a former sheltered workshop to learn more about these workers.
Would you all want to go back to sub-minimum wage?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do I?
No, I like minimum wage better.
As I explored the issue, it took on bigger themes. What does it mean to have dignity, to have choice, and to flourish? So, Sophie, do you know how much you made on this paycheck?
How much was it? $21.85. Yeah, $21.85.
I met Sophie Bennett at Venango Training and Development Center.
Is this for 2 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
And how many days?
Do you come 3 days or 2?
3.
You come 3, so 6 days. Only in the morning.
I see.
Sophie is diagnosed with Down syndrome. She lives with her parents, who take care of her, and she started at Venango in 2022 after finishing special education high school. The workshop, like many others, contracts with outside businesses to make products or parts for them. Here, the workers are assembling a component for storage racks.
Oh, that one ain't gonna pass that way.
But unlike a usual factory, the workers here are supervised partly by disability support professionals who help them stay on task and deal with disability-related needs.
Oh, they're all checked.
In fact, all 600 sheltered workshops nationwide are classified as rehabilitation programs by the federal government. Most workshops are funded primarily by Medicaid, according to workshop directors.
People need restroom assistance. They're not allowed to eat A, B, C, or D. They have to have food blended up, and we take care of that. Things like that aren't in the so-called normal business that we deal with every single day.
How about pretzels?
Yeah, question.
Tim Miller runs a sheltered workshop in Greensburg, Pennsylvania that offers a document shredding service.
Yeah.
You gonna go work today?
Huh?
Go make some money.
Half a day, maybe.
All right, whatever. Just make half the money then.
That's another unique feature of sheltered workshops. People can work at their own pace, but how much you earn is proportional to your output. Sheltered workshops follow a payment system that's regulated and audited by the Department of Labor. Here's how it typically works. Take shredding. First, you find 3 non-disabled people, train them for the job, and have them do it for an hour, which generally includes a 10-minute break. Then, their average output is correlated with the local prevailing wage of an experienced worker who does the same job or something comparable. Let's say it's $12 an hour. Now, if a disabled worker shreds half as much paper in an hour, they'll earn $6 for that hour. If they shred a third, they'll earn $4. This payment system is legal under a statute known as 14C. It's part of the Fair Labor Standards Act, which established the federal minimum wage, but also made some exceptions. Section 14C allows subminimum wages for certain disabled workers to prevent curtailment of opportunities of employment. In the US, about 1 in 7 14C workers work fast enough to earn at or above the federal minimum wage. On the other hand, about 1 in 10 earn less than $1 per hour.
It was definitely degrading as soon as I figured out what was going on.
I was only getting $2. I was mad.
14C workers are, in many ways, an understudied population. There's no comprehensive data on their finances or how they see their wages. With the help of disability rights groups, I connected with a few former 14C workers who felt demeaned by their work. What were your work hours?
Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m.
And what would be like a typical paycheck?
Anywhere between $60 and $100.
Carrie Varner is diagnosed with autism. In the early 2000s, she worked in a sheltered workshop in Minnesota that sold some of its products in an in-house thrift store. Carrie said her supervisors treated her like an infant.
My whole family felt I could do so much more than what I was doing. And so I got really badly depressed.
Eventually, Carrie was able to prove herself at the workshop.
They needed someone at the cash register one day. And I was the only person that had passed basic math in school out of everyone in that group. So I went and did the cash register. I did such a good job that they let me do fill-in. When I did the cashiering job, I was being paid $9.75 an hour.
These are places where people come and stay in poverty for the rest of the duration of their time. It assumes that people with intellectual and developmental disabilities cannot be productive workers, and that's simply wrong, and it needs to end.
Mr. Krieger has a bad one. There, good job.
But sheltered workshop directors say they have to deal with the reality of low productivity. They say that paying wages commensurate to output helps sustain the business while keeping every worker employed.
The commensurate sliding scale allows for an individual to work at their pace without the additional anxiety and pressure of a quota.
Kit Brewer leads a national group that advocates for preserving 14C. He also runs a sheltered workshop in Missouri.
I have to say to some of my own employees, the things that you're providing, if we put them in the competitive marketplace, would that business pay you and continually employ you? And I know that's a very harsh seeming statement, but there are uncomfortable truths to reality sometimes that have to be considered.
Still, a 14C worker's salary seems far from a living wage. But when I talked to workers and their caregivers, they told me their basic needs are met in other ways. Here's one worker and his mother.
What he makes here in RCW is a fourth of his total income.
Right, through like Social Security,
yeah, and then
Medicaid.
Us, we, obviously trust funds and stuff for him.
Be real careful. Go get your chips.
Sophie Bennett is also on Social Security, and her parents have a trust fund set up for her as well. One official from the Government Accountability Office told me that many 14C workers likely qualify for Social Security due to their disabilities. Many are on other welfare programs that cover essential services. But again, there is no comprehensive data.
This is more for him to be out in the workforce. It's not about the money. It's just not about the money.
Last time I came home, I did like 1,100, 1,300.
He's very proud of himself for the work he does here.
1,400
hooks.
Hooks.
That's a lot of hooks.
I'm gonna keep making more hooks for the miners underground.
Sweeney. Good job, John. Next.
It is payday at Venango, and there are scenes of pride and joy.
$52.09 on the bottom.
That's right. Yep. What do you think?
Yep, I do a good job.
How do you feel about your paycheck?
I don't know.
Terrific.
No one I met at the two workshops voiced a concrete complaint about their pay. Granted, some workers have no concept of money, but still, the general picture I got is that earning minimum wage or not isn't a main concern.
I like work here.
You like working there?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because people are nice.
People are nice.
Yeah. Because I work home.
The money is not the issue.
I also met with a group of family members of workers at Venango, and they emphasized that the workshop provides structure and purpose.
He has something to do every day, and this is what he needs, and people don't realize how important that is.
It's wonderful, and it gives them a sense of purpose, which we all need and deserve.
But that hasn't been true for everyone.
I used to do this 8 hours a day. One of the main jobs I was given was to cut buttons off of shirts and put them into jars.
Carrie Varner told me that she did mostly busy work during her time at a sheltered workshop.
It's mind-numbing at absolute best.
What's more, she said her supervisors often gave her extra tasks that were potentially dangerous.
There were a few people who had behavioral issues, and they could become physically violent. And since none of the job coach people really liked dealing with that, they had me be an intermediate, kind of like an intermediate arbitrator, more or less, to get them to calm down.
And how often were you mediating behavior issue that is potentially physically threatening?
At least once a week.
Critics say sheltered workshops are a form of segregation that limits workers' opportunities and growth. What is more, they say that in a segregated setting, this vulnerable group may face abuse. One egregious case was uncovered in Iowa in 2009 when officials rescued 32 disabled workers who were employed and housed by a for-profit food company. Henry's Turkey Service transported the 32 men from Texas to Iowa to work in a facility where they gutted turkeys. But at the men's dorm, they were neglected and abused by overseers.
They learned to eat with an arm over their head because of the falling vermin. One of them, who wanted to just walk around, was chained to his bed at night.
Today, sheltered workshops are heavily regulated, according to workshop directors I spoke to. Between 2012 and 2021, Department of Labor investigations identified $15 million of unpaid wages owed to more than 73,000 14C workers. That's about $200 per person. On the other hand, these wage violations occurred at about the same rate as in DOL investigations of non-14C workplaces. Critics of 14C often push for what's called competitive integrated employment, work that pays regular wages done alongside non-disabled colleagues.
People with disabilities deserve every opportunity, just like everybody else. Again, folks would just say that there's no reason to be segregated. Why can't we be a part of, what everybody else is doing?
Starting in 2016, sheltered workshops are required by law to make sure that every worker receives annual career counseling about competitive integrated employment. During the counseling session, the worker must be asked whether they're interested in this type of work. And if they say yes, they will be channeled to disability career services that help them seek such jobs and teach them related skills.
Thank you.
But workshop directors say the vast majority of workers are not interested.
Give it to me. Give it to me.
Both workers and caregivers have told me that they see the workshops as a space of safety and comfort. And it's the outside world that's potentially isolating and dangerous.
Sophie is very vulnerable. She could be taken advantage of very quickly in the community. She has extremely supportive parents that would do anything for her. And they feel secure that she's here because she's so vulnerable.
Have you thought about working in other places?
No, I don't. They wanted everybody to go, they wanted some people to go in the community, but I don't want to really do that because I don't feel safe doing that.
Yeah, could you explain a bit more why you don't feel safe?
Because of my blindness.
I met Justin Geyer at the shredding workshop. He told me he had been coming here for more than 20 years and had never worked anywhere else. But stories like this actually alarm certain critics.
You have to expose yourself to different situations to lead your best life. There's a natural reflex, a bias, that for some reason we have to protect people with intellectual developmental disabilities. And that bias can go a little too far.
Critics say that overly protective caregivers often discourage workers from trying competitive work, causing them to languish in their workshops, sometimes for decades, without ever venturing outside of their comfort zone. But on the other hand, there are 14C workers who tried to find work in the general community, but were not even accepted as unpaid volunteers. This is Kelly Lonergan. She's diagnosed with nonverbal autism. She earns about $300 every 2 weeks at her workshop. And she also likes the work, her mother told me, because it gives her a sense of structure and completion.
When she was younger and she graduated from school, I thought, oh, well, we'll get her a volunteer job with an aide just to go out because she loves to straighten things. And so I thought, we'll have her go to a store and she can pick the departments up. I had all these specialists come in and try to help us find someplace. Even they had big volunteers needed on the front of the store, again, a thrift store or something like that. They didn't want her. Even if you said, well, she'll have someone with her, she'll be monitored at all times. No one wanted her.
There is no comprehensive data on what happened to former 14C workers in the states that phased out 14C. A 2025 report looks at Colorado and Oregon. Among the former workers tracked, about 1/4 have since worked in competitive integrated employment. On average, they work about 10 hours a week in these jobs and earn right around the state's minimum wage.
The law signed by Governor J.B. Pritzker giving Illinois workers with disabilities equal pay.
We did it.
The lower portion of these workers are now unemployable anywhere else probably for the rest of their lives. There's nowhere else for them to go.
What's more, among 14C workers who have found competitive work, some gave up their jobs and returned to their workshops, like John Sweeney. John is a star at Venango. He's one of the most productive workers.
12.
Try 22. 122, 122.
That is too many, John.
Way too many.
That is too many. You work.
Venango has its own career service to help people find competitive jobs. And for a while, John worked at a bookstore.
What did you do at the bookstore?
He was scanning books in and categorizing them. And when he first started, he was so proud of himself, and he dressed up, and we were very proud of him, and we promoted it. He was there for a while, and then all of a sudden decided that he was going to quit his job. And he said, "I miss my friends." I said, "Well, you can still see your friends." And he said, no, I miss my friends." It was a job where he just worked himself and was kind of in an area that wasn't among other people, but that was the job. You know, that's the real world. And he needed more than that.
Hi, my name is Ken.
He has some days where he says, "Yes, I do want to work in the community again," and we'll capitalize on that when we can. But I guess here provides him the opportunity to make those choices.
Do you want to work out in the community?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Make more money.
You can make more money.
Yeah.
What is like an ideal job for you?
That more can be normal. Sweeney.
How much do you earn at Arby's?
$10 an hour.
And how many hours do you work there every week?
6 hours. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 11 to 1.
I met Sandra Kaiser in Henderson, Kentucky. She had been working for about a year at Arby's. And she got the job with the help of an agency called Elevate. It's a former 14C workshop that now focuses on helping attendees move toward competitive work.
Is the boss going to take time to teach you how to not be rude to coworkers? No.
As various states phase out 14C, sheltered workshops around the country are exploring other ways to serve their workers. And since Elevate's transition, 20 attendees have worked in competitive jobs for some period of time.
They work in retail establishments, they work in libraries. When you put an expectation on an individual, regardless of their ability or disability, they rise to that expectation.
So what you get? 86. Anybody else get 86?
Yes. 7 plus 2 and it's 9.
Elevate transitioned in 2020 from 14C work to a mix of classes and minimum wage work. Attendees now spend the majority of their time in classes. This class, called Coping Skills, teaches the social-emotional skills required for the general workplace.
What kind of coping skill do you try?
I try breathing, squishing my stress balls.
How you work with someone you may not get along with, how you take direction, and how you're able to ask questions if you don't understand. Sitting at a table and putting parts together all day is not going to teach that.
Outside of classes, Elevate offers on-site factory work where everyone is paid the federal minimum wage of $7.25 regardless of output. The work also comes with new expectations.
You come into the workroom and you're talking and not working, then we'll send you to class. Individuals earn that work. It's more valuable to them, and we picked up our productivity.
Today, even though Elevate pays more per hour to its group of workers, that extra cost is offset by the increase in their total hourly output, according to Director Julie Wisher. But not every attendee liked Elevate's transition.
Some of us make less now than we did whenever we did the less than minimum.
And why is that? Because we don't work as much?
We don't work as much, and some of us work pretty dang fast, and we could be making more money than what we are on minimum wage.
So you were making more than minimum wage?
Yes.
Here, Julie gathered a group of longtime attendees to talk about Elevate's transition.
Do you think the classes are important or have improved your workability at all? Do you think?
I think it does.
So there are good sides to not working as much and taking classes.
What do you learn in coping skills class?
Learn not to get past 3. The feeling rating scales. I blow up to 5. If I hold it in.
Sandra is diagnosed with an intellectual disability and has also experienced abuse and neglect growing up. Over the past decades, she worked various stints in the general community, but these all ended with her being fired for egregious behavior.
Her behaviors, that was her communication, because she didn't know any other way. So it was how she let people know, like, hey, something's not right.
What are you doing here?
Stop in and say hi. Don't stress about it right now, okay?
I am.
I know you are.
Wait, what are you stressed about, Sandra?
She wants to move into an office job.
Office assistant.
Mm-hmm. Well, look, you look with me, right?
I'm looking with...
Does that feel better?
Yeah.
Amber Johnson teaches coping skills at Elevate. In 2023, she helped Sandra find her Arby's job with a manager willing to look past her work history.
Your name tag is supposed to be on your shirt, and since he's filming you, guess what?
We're holding on one. Thank you.
He had history working with folks that had disabilities in his previous location and job. And so he's able to be very direct, but also be very supportive. And so that's exactly what she needs.
You get him, and it goes that car right out there, baby, okay?
Yeah.
It can take a village to support one person in a competitive, integrated job that's only part-time. Sandra's 2-hour shift was sprinkled with little social interactions, but otherwise it was rather repetitive and monotonous. She'd rather be an office assistant, but she understood that doing this job well could lead to other opportunities.
You checking?
I checking.
Oh, man.
You all good to go? Looks good.
Thank you.
All righty.
And I know some of the individuals that we serve today will never be work ready, but they're getting closer.
What's the value of getting closer to it, but not getting to the point of being ready?
Well, I think when you look at someone who is work ready, they communicate better with their peers and with their support staff. They can advocate for themselves. And so while they may not find the right job for them, they could become more active in their community in other ways.
Since you've been here, you've done a whole lot more than just become a good worker. Last weekend, you went to Owensboro to a birthday party, right? That you were invited to, right? Even though I bet you've pushed their buttons, haven't you? Right? I mean, that's a big deal.
Right.
You okay? Need a hug?